Nazir Sheikh, and brother Nazir, in his professional life, he works as an IT professional, uh, and then in in at home and around the house, he does a lot of many different things in the house. So maybe we'll get to talk more about that during our time here today. Then we have Brother Abdullah Khairuddin, who works in telecommunication, and again does a lot of things around the house as well, and inshallah will benefit from some of the nice projects that he has done. And then last but not least, we have, or we should have, Brother Muhammad Siaj, the one I was asking about earlier. And Muhammad, if you're here, please give us any indication that you're present, so that we know you're here. Muhammad works as an electrician. He's a certified electrician, and by virtue of his work and his profession, he gets exposed to all kinds of different things related to construction projects and whatnot. And as well, he does things in the house and have done many projects and helped others actually also do some projects as well. So Jazakumullah khairan for our guests and for everyone who's participating with us here today. We'll get things started. We have okay. We prepare a few things that inshallah we can start with, and feel free to post your any questions that you have. Brother Ala is taking care of that for us, and I just want to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on that as well. So feel free to ask any questions that you have, and inshallah we'll try to post that, get to them and answer them as much as we can. And if we don't know, we don't know. Maybe it will be another time to try to inshallah get to those. So we'll start with our guests, please. Maybe if you can, and I'm not quite sure if everybody who's showing their videos, but our guests, at least please remember to turn your video on if you haven't. I'm using my phone, so I don't think I see everybody. I can see everybody on the phone, but inshallah, hopefully you're doing that already. So we'll start with Brother Nazir Sheikh. And Brother Nazir, as I said, you have done many projects by yourself. And maybe if you can start us off by talking about the kind of things that if someone wants to do some projects, DIY projects around the house, the kind of things that can be done, one can we do by him or herself around the house. What are some of the things to think about and consider as you take on some of these projects? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad Numar. As Brother Numar introduced, my name is Nazir. Some of y'all know me, and some of y'all know me in person, in the sense that we have met before, or we've said just Salaam Alaikum across the halls when crossing our paths. Doing things by yourself, everybody loves to do that, and it just comes down to what can you do or what you are comfortable to do by yourself. Everybody, depending on your interest and your skills, whether you have picked up a screwdriver and fixed a nail in the wall, or for example, very commonly there are things damaged or broken at home, and you've tried to fix that. The range of things you can do varies, and it all varies on your capabilities and your comfort level, whether you can do it. Things are easy for some people, things are difficult for some people. So I think it boils down to what can you do and what you have done. Some people learn by observing, and some people go and take classes. For example, even Home Depot does weekend classes to do some DIY projects. I remember many years back coming to Canada, I had attended one of those, and that's how it all started. I've observed my dad do some of this stuff when I was a child, and that also, it's an interest of an individual to do. So by all means, explore your capabilities and comfort level. Um, See what is appears easy for you, but definitely give it a start.
Jazakallah khair. So along those lines, so what are some of the things that you would consider in terms of, because there are codes, for example, right, for pretty much everything, and how does one figure out what to do and what not to do, and where do you say, I should not do this, I should get a professional to do it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Understanding codes is more of an academic experience. There are many resources on the internet that can help you. I remember buying a book from Reader's Digest of common maintenances that you can do, and for example, changing filters in a furnace, or cleaning stuff. Cleanliness really helps in the sense that things accumulate dust, or it rusts over time in usage. So lubricating and things of those. So I would definitely suggest that either purchase a book on codes, or check resources. And again, codes vary from country to country, so we have to be specific to what is applicable to Canada. What may have worked for example, I'm originally from India. What may have worked in India is not necessary that will work here. For example, we have different frequencies for electricity, as well as different voltages for electricity in Canada. So you have to consider the location and the locality in which you're applying um, um, the codes.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. I just moved my. Here we go. Jazakallah khair. Okay, so moving on to Brother Muhammad Syed. Muhammad, are you there? Are you able? I can't hear you. Okay, so you have some audio problems, so we'll come back to you, inshallah, and then we'll go to Abdullah. Abdullah, I think one of the I guess an interesting and important project that you have done by yourself, and it might be something that some people would want to take on, which is finishing your basement. You have done that, and maybe you can speak a little bit to that, and some of the tips and tricks and things people should consider as they take on such a project.
Sure, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You can hear me right?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, I'm going to take a step back, if you don't mind, Muhammad, just because first, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa sallallahu wa sallam barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. As with everything, we know that any action that you start without the proper intention is basically incomplete. And so I just want to start with this. Why do I personally do these kinds of projects, and why should we all do all these kinds of projects? And so I just wanted to really make a point about the intention, about the niyyah before you start with this, just like it is before we start with any other work. And subhanAllah, we know from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and the seerah of the prophets, that the Prophet ﷺ tells us, "Ma min nabiyyin illa wara'a al-ghanam," that there hasn't been a single prophet except that he was a shepherd. In other words, he had a trade. He did work with his own hands. And that's what actually prompted some of the scholars, some of the most prominent scholars in the 20th century, when the trades and the jobs spectrum changed, where it became offices and like we do today, when sit in front of computers all day long, that they actually started encouraging people not to forget to be able to learn and do things with their own hands. And some of them go to the extent of encouraging professionals, doctors and engineers and so on, to actually pick up a trade, to know how to do something with their own hands. So this is, I feel this is part of the motivation for me personally, because I actually want to implement a sunnah that perhaps I wasn't implementing before. So that was number one. And number two, a lot of the time it's also about proving that you can do certain things. There is a certain satisfaction for building things with your own hands and seeing a finished product after you are done. Another thing that I do it, I make sure anytime I'm doing projects at home that my kids are involved. And I think most of you on the call know my family. So I have 2 teenage girls. And so it's interesting in the summer when we were doing the project in the in the front yard, that they were shoveling all day gravel and compacting gravel and so on. So people, when they passed by, found it an interesting thing to see. But anyways, I just wanted to share some of these thoughts, that it's really important to keep the intention in check, and then go about doing what we do. Okay, so let's get to the basement. Why did we want to do the basement? Create a safe space for the children, right? A lot of communities or a lot of families in Kanata are, have young children and want to fix their basements. Why did we not do the basement for 5 years since we moved to the house? Because it's expensive. So why did I start doing it myself? Frankly, for the previously mentioned reasons, but also to save some money. So talking about finishing the basement, there are multiple things involved in finishing the basement, right? There is, if you want to keep track or keep count. So there is the big things, the big blocks are the plumbing, if you plan to put a washroom and a kitchen, the electrical work, because the amount of work that the builder leaves behind is minimal in the basement, so you have to do electrical work. And then there is the finishing, framing, drywalls, mudding, flooring, baseboards, etc. So from my personal experience, I knew where my limits are. So for example, plumbing, I did not do myself. I got a plumber to do the plumbing for me. Electrical work, personally, I would never do electrical work unless if it's something basic, install a light fixture, install a fan, replace something here and there. But to actually run wiring in the basement and so on, the whole basement, I don't do it, not because I'm not capable of doing it, but because of code, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid, if anything happens, there is major liability on the electricity. So my advice is for those 2 things, plumbing and electrical, to get someone to help you out. And the rest, you pretty much can do anything else, right? Actually, there's one more thing that is very difficult to do as well. Drywalling is easy. Framing and putting up the drywalls is not difficult. It is hard work, so you need to know that it's very hard work. But then after that, mudding is difficult, so you need to get somebody to do the mudding. So the 3 things you need someone to help you out with is plumbing, mudding, electrical work. And then you put, the drywall, as I said, is easy. Flooring is easy. Doors are easy. Baseboard finishing is easy, and paint is my favorite. It's extremely easy. It's a perfect activity if you have children, to get them to do it. On top of that, the overlay for all of this is be prepared to put in the time, because it does take time. Be prepared for things to go wrong and you have to fix them, because that's going to happen. And then, just enjoy it, honestly, have fun with it, have, family, friends help you out, and it is doable. Yes.
Perfect. Jazakallah khair. So I guess, well, there's a lot there. So maybe we'll come back and pick on some of these points, inshallah. So Muhammad Siyaj, you're muted still.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm sorry for the trouble. I had a problem with the computer.
Okay. I had problems too, so that's good. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum,
We
everyone.
managed to find it. Salam.
Thank you for having me in the group and in this meeting. So
Muhammad, he lives in Barhaven, but we allowed him in here today. It's okay.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah. So Muhammad, winter is upon us. Well, it's
That's right.
here already.
It's already there.
And maybe it's a little late, but if you can touch upon some of the things that should be done as we prepare for winter, and things that people should take care of around the house and outside, of course.
As we all know, winter here is pretty tough and gets really cold. One of the most important things that I would like to talk about is like shutting off the water that's going outside, so you won't get any freeze faucets, and it might cause in the early summer or spring when things start to melting down, probably flooding in the basement and stuff like that we might not be aware of. There is another thing that we have, some of us have wood windows, and we really need to take care of the caulking around the windows, the painting, just when it's really bad, so we won't have any leaks of air inside the house that would increase the bill of the gas if we have that leaks around the house from doors and trims. Sealing the driveway is like it's really a good thing to do before winter as well. Sealing the driveway with the filling up the gaps. It's not something really hard. Like, it's not very hard to do. You can go to any of the providers for like the paint and the seal that you can buy, like the asphalt that you can buy in bags or in buckets. And you can fill up the cracks in the driveway, which will prevent the water fill up in those cracks and the ice that might make your driveway like ruin it even more. If you have a small crack, it's going to be bigger for the next year. Checking for drainage and gutters. That's another thing. You don't want this to be flooded and like the ice is going to build up all the way on the gutter, and it's gonna just keep dropping probably a piece of ice, or just gonna start putting water everywhere. If you have a chimney, it's a good habit to clean it before winter, get it ready if you actually use it. One thing I would like to talk about is it's not something about winter, but it's something to do, like test your smoke alarm. Our smoke alarm at home is has an expiration date on it. So a lot of people that I see that don't know about this, and this is a very important thing that we have to take care of, and like be aware that we have to take a look at it and make sure the expiration date is not like we're still good, and test it as well to make sure it's in good working condition. You can do some cleaning in your and ventilate in the system of heating, if like before winter as well. Sometime you can find the access to the duct in the basement. You can find like a small access that you can, like probably a couple of screws and some tape around it. You can take that off, put your vacuum in, and that's something any one of us can do. Clean up the dust that's inside that you can reach, like the best that you can reach. Put it back. That's something easy that we can all do. Lawn care, we can seed, put some overseed in the fall and earlier in the spring. That will keep our lawn like in good shape. A good thing to do is trimming. If you have trees that have branches all over your driveway, it's a good thing to clean it up so you won't have build up ice, and you won't have something that can fall on your car, cause damage to your car, or cause damage to any, like, or hurt somebody that's passing by. So a good thing as well, covering the patio furniture, whatever you have. Keep all the stuff that might get damaged during the winter, keep it in your shed or inside the house, get it in the house. Cover your AC unit is a good thing as well. And Last thing I would like to talk about is if you have a small trees or herbs that you might want it to stay for next year, you might as well cover that and try to get some like sort of seal it from the cold so it won't get damaged through the harsh winter and the very cold winter.
Okay, mashallah, that's a very long list. Hopefully people are taking notes here, Muhammad.
So
Or maybe we
hopefully it's
can,
gonna be helpful
summarize
for.
Yes, yes. One thing that's maybe kind of, aside from this sort of, the different things that you do in preparation for winter, something, and I don't know how common or how well known that is that, of course, when, it's a good idea to have, a schedule for your thermostat, and obviously if you have a smart thermostat, then there's some other nice features. But what I've learned is that during the night, when everyone is sleeping, you don't really have to keep the temperature at 23 or 22 or whatever the comfort level that you like to keep it at. But you can actually lower it down, like the time when after 1 hour or half hour after everyone goes to bed, and then bring it back up to the normal what you like level before everyone wakes up. Because when people are sleeping, they're covered, they don't actually feel the difference that much. So it could save a little bit on the heating bill. So that's just a small tip there that people can use, inshallah. All right, so when we do things...
Mohammed, sorry to interrupt. Do you want us to answer the questions in the chat or answer them on the call so everyone basically gets, to hear the
Yes,
answer?
the problem I have is that I am not able to see the question.
I can do that for you, Mohammed, if you don't mind.
This is who? This is Wadala?
This is Ala, yes.
Okay.
So
Or if you can, I'm keeping an eye on WhatsApp. If you want to put things there, then I can also keep an eye on them. But please,
no,
Ala,
okay.
if you have a if you have a question, if one of the you can go ahead.
Okay, so there's a question for you, Abdullah. It came first, but then there's another one later on came to Muhammad. I will go with the one to you, Abdullah. Jazakallah khair, Abdullah. What are some typical jobs when doing the basement that we have to really watch out for and do well, as if we don't, then it may lower the house value, not plumbing, electrician, and mudding, which you mentioned.
Yeah, so the basement is one of these tricky things. People can go crazy about it and do so much. Like I got quotes to finish the basement, something like 60 grand. But they were doing, I don't know, Georgian arcs and things like that in the basement, which may not actually add to the value of the house. So from my experience is that the basement renovation and the basement finishing at tops adds an X value. And so whether you spend 20 or 100K on the basement, the value of the house is not what's in the basement. That being said, obviously you want it to you don't want it to look like it was done in a sloppy fashion, right? And so as long as the corners are sharp, there are no no obvious things that the eyes will catch, I think you should be covered. What we actually did in our basement is we left it completely open. We closed, just the washroom. And in fact, for one of the space where we wanted a bedroom, but we didn't want it to be a permanent bedroom, we have a rolling door. So if we have guests, we basically close that space off with a rolling door, and they have a bedroom. If not, that door is open and the basement is fully open, for Hassan Amin to wreck it. And so that's what, as far as I know, that again, you could spend so much money on the basement, but really you will not get that money back. You will get X amount of it. You're better off not spending all that money unless you're going to live in that house for the longest time and you really want to enjoy the space and so on. That's a different story. But value-wise, do not put a ton of money on your basement is my advice.
So a question to.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, so I got the other. I think there is another question for
Yes.
Brother Muhammad, and it says in the main circuit breaker panel, one of the breaker occasionally goes off. This particular breaker looks different than the rest, and it's the breaker for a room in the basement. What can I do about it? Can this be replaced, fixed? I guess does need to be replaced, I guess is the question.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. In order to know the problem, we would have to check the load on the room, check what's going, like how much amps are you taking off that breaker. You might be overloading the breaker with maybe a heater in the room or a couple of heaters that you have there running on the same breaker. That's why the breaker is tripping, or the breaker that's installed in the panel is not compatible with it and is not supposed to be there at all. So that's why probably it's tripping. I can't really tell from just what I heard. Like I would like if I probably need more information, and I won't mind sharing my phone number if you would like to call me in person and ask me, and probably I'll ask you to send me some pictures, and based on that, I'll be able to tell you. I'll ask you a few questions about what's the situation that you have in that room, and based on that, I'll be able to answer like more accurately for your question. Thank you.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. We have more questions, but we'll come back to some of the questions in a minute. But I want to go back to Brother Nazir. And Brother Nazir, as you take on some of these projects in the house, tools is one of the main things, right? There's a tool for everything, and you always need to have the right tools. And I always joke with my family. I say, you can never have enough tools, right? So and one of the things that I guess are important when you take on some of the larger projects, if you're doing flooring or if you're finishing the basement or some of these things, there are so many different types of saws out there that you can get. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and what can be used for what and so on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. I mean, personally, I feel I can't have enough. So there is always an argument with my wife that how many. Yeah.
Hopefully they're watching.
Right. So how much is enough? So yes, saws play a very important role. You can start off with something basic. The most common saw is the circular saw, which is handheld. You could buy a battery operated one or something that runs off electricity. Both have their pros and cons. The battery one offers you the mobility that you can move around with it anywhere, but you have to keep ensuring that you have sufficient good batteries to run your tools. These tools, which run on electricity or battery, they are commonly called power tools. And otherwise, traditionally, the same job of cutting a piece of wood, or you could do it using a manual saw, where you have to exert a certain amount of physical strength and endurance to keep moving your arm to cut something. So today, power tools are very common, and they're very easily accessible. They usually come in kits. You'll have a drill driver set, that's very common. Then a circular saw. Various types of saws are there, and each saw is suitable for a specific job. Circular saw, you can do straight cuts or basically cut anything. Then you have your, very commonly call it a chop saw or a miter saw. In miter saw also you have a compound miter saw, which is recommended. If you're doing decking, then a miter saw is recommended. If you're doing baseboards or crown molding, crown molding offers a very good return value in terms of your investment. You invest $1,000 in crown molding. In terms of returns, it's nearly 3 times, at least that's what I've read, that you can expect an appreciation of $3,000-4,000 of the value of your house if you do crown molding. It looks beautiful, and we can go around doing it on. Generally, people do it on the main level or the levels where you entertain your guests, and you can be very creative in doing that. So commonly, the circular saw, the miter saw, and the reciprocating saw. These 3 are very common. If you are into, if you want to cut curves or cut pipes, then the jigsaw is the 4th saw, which is very commonly used. A note about power tools: be comfortable using it. They can. There's something called a kickback from a power tool, especially the saws, and it can be pretty damaging if you don't hold the tool very strongly, or if you're not wearing protective gear. A glove also helps to protect your fingers and keep your hand away. Use proper grips. If you're passing the wood closer to the blade, which rotates at a very high speed. There are table saws. That's an additional type of saw. Whether you should have it. If you're doing very long pieces of woods for cabinetry, then a table saw is useful. But that's the last saw I would think of buying if it's necessary.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. There's so many different types out there.
Muhammad, can I add a point on that?
Yes, please.
I think it will address also Dr. Ashfaq's question on what do you do when you start buying these tools and you never stop buying tools? Where do you store them? So I have the same issue actually at my house. I do not have storage to keep all the tools that I would like to have. And so actually one thing that's really important is to be resourceful in different ways. Number one, Dr. Ashfaq, yes, you pretty much can rent any tool these days from Home Depot and others. You can rent a digger. When we did the front yard, I actually rented the backyard. I rented a digger and I dug my backyard myself. And so number one, you can rent a lot of things. Number two, use available free resources. So Home Depot and Lowe's, they used to do cuts for free. So last summer, I had to build a shelf across the entire wall in the garage. I don't have any saw except a handheld electrical saw. I literally went to Home Depot and they made between 60 and 70 cuts for me. I took the 2x4s, the plywoods, and I told them I want these cuts. They made 70 or 80 cuts for me. I came and I literally just drilled them into the wall and I was done in no time. Right, so that's number two. Number three, know someone who has these tools and borrow them from him. That's why I'm going to see Muhammad Nammar on the weekend to get a couple of cuts done. And so, the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to own all of these tools, because A, they obviously cost money. B, you may not have the storage. The return on investment might be very low. One of these saws you might use once and you're not going to use ever again, unless if someone like me wants to borrow it. And so, I just wanted to add those couple of points.
Jazakallah khair, Abdullah. Going back to electrical questions, and we have a question from Dr. Ashfaq. Again, he says, he'd asked about codes and how codes change over time. So if you make any changes or additions, do you have to bring everything up to code, or you just sort of carry over how it was done before?
Basically, for let's say you're fixing your old anything you're fixing and still existing, you didn't change anything, no new build, nothing is new. Let's say you want to build a new basement and you got to go up to code with the new basement. But if you're just adding, let's say, another light in the room or whatever, you're not going to upgrade the whole room for code. If you have now code require, let's say, smoke alarms with strobes. If you have your house was built on the old code and you want to replace your smoke alarms, you don't have to replace them with a new smoke alarm that's going to cost you like I'd say about 20 times what the old ones would cost. So you can still put the old ones in unless your house was built after that code was changed. And and otherwise you're replacing everything in the house, you're taking drywall out and you're doing new renovation for everything, taking walls and stuff like that, then you're going to follow the new code, that's for sure.
One thing I learned recently and I didn't know is that now like electrical plugs by code, they have to be the receptacles, they have to be tamper proof or tamper resistant, right?
That's right.
They used to sell both, and you go in the
They
other
they
one,
still sell both right now, but for the non-TR, non-temper resistant would be in commercial only. And the purpose of that you cannot put anything in the plug unless you put, like, let's say you cannot put a piece of metal in the plug on one side. You have to push both of them at the same time in order to put something in that plug, and that's going to be, you're plugging your tool, you're plugging any equipment that you have in the house. That's the only way that plug would open. But if a kid, and it's for safety reasons, if a kid trying to put, let's say, a piece of metal in the plug, it's not going to go in unless he put two pieces of metal on both sides at the same time, the neutral and the hot, which is not going to, like, should it happen.
Okay, we have more electric questions, but we'll come. Looks like it's going to be a popular topic here, Muhammad, but we'll come back to them. But we have a question from Brother Latif, and it's a question about window repairs. I assume, Brother Latif, you want to go ahead and ask that question, please? You can hear us?
Yes, I have an interesting situation, and my window has a crack. More specifically, my window frame has a crack, and I have contacted pretty much many of the major window repair companies, and they don't want to help me repair the window. They're like, if your window pane has a crack, we're more than happy to replace the glass. But if your window frame has a crack, I'm sorry, you need to replace the whole window. And by the way, because you have another window beside it that is not damaged, but nevertheless part of one frame, you need to buy two windows, brand new windows, and spend thousands of dollars. So I don't want to do that because I just have a little crack in my window frame. There was high winds, many weeks ago, and the window basically came out. Okay, so luckily I was able to grab it and bring it inside. But all I need to do, I have a PVC vinyl frame window, and I would like to know if you guys have ever dealt with this type of situation where I just need to fix this crack and I can put the window back in. What is your recommendation besides replacing the entire window?
I think they might be right in what they're telling you, Latif. But before you go that path, call Ali Shama. Ali Shama might be able to help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any advice, Brother Nazir, you can offer on this?
I mean, logically speaking, what my mind says that can cracks be repaired? Is there a product out there that you could use, for example, an epoxy binding or something to, temporarily at least fill the crack? And you'll be surprised that sometimes, not in North American context, but I found products in UK, and surprisingly, the European market has more solutions to a problem. I'll use an example. For example, Brother Latif, pot lights. Pot lights, they look beautiful in houses, and I've moved into a new house, and what I've observed is that this house has these 5-inch canned pot lights, which has bulbs in it, and these bulbs consume more electricity than the conventional ones today that we get in Home Depot and so many stores, which are 4-inch pot lights. Now, how to fit a 4-inch pot light in an existing hole that is 5 inches? Surprisingly, in North America, there are not many solutions available, but in UK, I found a kit which you could buy and basically insert it into the 5-inch hole, and which allows a 4-inch pot light. Basically, it reduces the size of the hole. It's a very simple kit, and then I've spent a lot of time searching it in North America, and incidentally, nobody here sells that kit. So there may be a solution to your problem, and it can at least temporarily give the relief. Like, for example, I'm imagining the weather is such that it's leaking and bringing cold air into your house. So you could temporarily have that solution.
But Nazir, I must say you have potentially hit the nail on the head, because after searching far and wide, that's exactly what I did. I found a compound in the UK and did an order. After many, many weeks, just received it. And it's precisely for this purpose. It's for binding PVC. And that is a compound that is no longer available, very hard to find in Canada. And so I'm hoping this will do the trick, because I didn't want to put Gorilla Glue and things like this and have things come out that's not strong enough. But thank you very much. I think you have confirmed my strategy, and so I will try that out. So hopefully we won't freeze over here.
Inshallah, it works. Inshallah. All right, so back to electrical questions from Brother Najib, and I assume that's going to go to Muhammad Siaj. I have a question regarding GFCI sockets. I have one that keeps tripping. Should I try to replace it myself or get a professional other than Muhammad Siaj?
Well, if you did that before and you know what's inside that box in terms of wires, which one, like you have maybe a tool to test the power there, or you can basically put the power down and you are comfortable doing it, I would say why not? But you make sure you put all the wires in the right place and you have it connected properly. And that might solve your problem if stripping all the time, unless you have some like something, if it's an outdoor sometimes if your GFI is installed outdoor, you have moisture around the box, and there's water inside the box that you won't even see. That's probably why it's tripping the GFI. It's going just right into the GFI and just making a small short inside it. That's why it's causing it to trip. Otherwise, if it's inside, it might be tripping just because it's too old or it's just not working properly. And yeah, you'll probably be able to fix it if you did that kind of work before. But if you're not comfortable doing it and you think you're gonna, like if you never did something like that before, you don't have enough experience, I wouldn't recommend you do it yourself, because you might cause yourself a bigger problem or something not safe for you, to getting a shock or any short in the box or any fire that might start from that point. With good breaker, you shouldn't have that problem, like the fire thing. Yeah, if you feel comfortable, why not doing it? I suggest, yeah, you can go ahead and do it yourself. But
okay, Jazakallah khair.
no problem.
Abdullah, if you're taking on again projects around the house, what would be your recommendations for a minimum basic set of tools that one should have? Unmute yourself, please.
Everyone, so 4 or 5 things actually should get most of the work done. You got to have a good drill set, a good set of screwdriver set, but if your drill set is sufficient, it's good enough. It could be corded or could be cordless. Someone picks on me on my corded drill all the time, but that's okay. Alhamdulillah. You need to have at least one saw to get basic jobs done. And what I mean by that, I really like my handheld saw, because I can change the blades on it. I can cut pipes, both plastic and metal. I can do very rough wood cuts. I mean, you're not going to be cutting 2x4s with it to do framing, but at least for the basic jobs around the house, it's a perfect saw to have. I even cut the trees with it, the tree branches and so on. So it's perfect in that sense. A voltmeter is handy if you're going to be doing any kind of power work. And really, this is, and have a collection of screws and nails of different shapes and sizes. Never throw any nail or screw whenever you buy a piece of furniture that you don't use things from it. Always keep the extra stuff, because it will come in handy one day. So those are the things that I really have. I literally have just one box, and two tiny bags. One bag has the drill, one bag has the saw, and a bunch of basically miscellaneous nails and screws and so on.
Okay, that's good. Jazakallah khair. There was a question about the cost of building a basic 3-piece bathroom in the basement, and Abdullah, I guess, answered that $7,000 to $10,000. So, which is, I mean, I think about 2 years ago or something, we did the same thing in the house, and indeed, the cost was around $8,500 for a small 3-piece bathroom. So that sounds right, absolutely. I'm gonna, sorry, go ahead. I had someone trying
That
to
wasn't
speak.
for you, Muhammad.
Oh, was it for me? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. So I wanted to direct the next question to Brother Nazir. The question is about fixing a crack in the refrigerator shelves, which is kind of along the same lines of Brother Latif's question.
Right. If you're talking of shelves, I would, if the crack is repairable by either using an epoxy glue or something that joins a break in the plastic, like, left and right of that crack, if you can make small screws and put a piece of another plastic that can hold things together.
Or maybe metal, maybe a piece of metal.
A piece of metal also. Many a times, like I've seen practically, that the walls inside the fridge, those also crack. So you get aluminum sheets that you can stick it basically on that, because all those cracks in the walls of the refrigerator is also leaking cold air out into the insulation of the body of the refrigerator. So if the crack is not repairable, then obviously replace. You get replacement shelves, replacement drawers for the fridge, and they're not very expensive.
Okay. Muhammad Siaj, which is more pro, cord or corded or cordless?
I would definitely say cordless is
without picking on Abdullah. It's okay.
Cordless is like, for me personally, I use cordless for most of my work because it's handy and you don't have a wire hanging around all the time, up and down, and unplug every single second. So cordless is definitely the answer.
Okay.
I would like to add, it depends on the job too. If you're looking to drill big holes, definitely you have to get a corded drill, which is a big corded drill and with the big bits. That's going to be a different story. Or like Brother Nazir was talking about the saws, like miter saw and table saw. They are corded to have high speed and faster and better cuts. When it's cordless, there is the circular saw and the miter saw and cordless, and it's going to be good at the beginning, but when your batteries start to draining up, it's going to be cutting very slowly, and it might ruin your cut if you're doing a finishing cut with a finishing blade. Just that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Abdullah, mashallah, you recently did some very nice interlocking project in the front of your house. Do you wanna maybe talk a little bit about that, and how do people even get started with such a difficult project?
Sure. So actually, stonework is probably one of the more difficult that people, hesitate to do. So they are difficult. I mean, they are hard work. So if you are planning to do that kind of project, you got to be ready to put in the labor. Okay, so it is very laborious process. However, it's probably one of the most fulfilling projects that you will ever do. Um, Everything is doable. Really, all I've done is watched YouTube videos, and I was not afraid to fail. You know, so when I did my backyard, as I mentioned earlier, I did all of the digging myself. I actually rented the kubota, the digger. I did the digging, I did the foundation, I did all of that. This time, and this is what I really want to keep emphasizing. Sometimes you need to be a little bit resourceful and not be so hung on, oh, I have to do it all A to Z myself. And I'll give you this small story. So I made a calculation. If I were to rent the digger to dig myself, and I ran those big bins to dispose the dig, and then to buy the gravel and all of that, pay for the delivery, etc., it was going to cost me about $1,200 just for this part. And so one night I thought, you know what, on Kijiji, let me see if somebody would do it for cheaper. And lo and behold, I found someone actually who had rented a digger for a week, and he was done his job in 4 days. And he's like, you know what, I have this digger free. Let me put an ad online and see if somebody needs it for a day. So the guy came, actually did the digging for me and took the fill and brought the gravel for about $1,000, right? So it saved me $200 and all of that labor. So the point I'm trying to say is you can do it all A to Z, but you can also try and figure out ways to simplify your work. So again, it's all doable. Watch a lot of YouTube. Call people when you're stuck. Muhammad Siyaj knows that I've called him a few times. Inshallah, he's not just an electrician, but he's very, very handy in many other things. The key job in doing interlock are two things: making sure that your foundation is compacted very, very well. Do not cut corners. If they tell you need to put 18-inch of gravel, put 18-inch of gravel. Do not put 11-inch of gravel, because Canadian weather will definitely ruin your project. That's number one. And number two, the leveling, if you're building any walls, is extremely, extremely important. And so you need to worry about that. Get helpers, get friends, and get your family to actually come and help you with it. It will take a little bit of time, and be prepared for for things to go wrong, to fail, and then you have to do it again. Or they promise you to bring deliveries at some time. You take a vacation week off to get the job done, but they don't bring you a complete delivery. They bring you a partial delivery. So you need to be ready for all of these things. But the bottom line is it's doable. Watch a lot of YouTube. Call a friend when you're stuck, and just do it. Really, just do it. It's a lot of fun.
Very good, mashallah. And it looks very nice, mashallah. Inviting everyone to go to your place and take a look.
If you look very closely, you'll find some things which are not perfect, but that's okay. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not,
only you know about those, though. That's
right. Yeah, and the thing with those, what my perspective on this was, if they're not perfectly leveled, in 2 or 3 years, I'll take them out and re-level everything. Then they will be perfectly leveled, and so it's okay. Alhamdulillah.
Brother Nazir, I want to bring in another topic. Muhammad Siyaj kind of touched on it with the smoke alarms and replacing the batteries and the expiry. But what are just regular maintenance items that one should be doing in the house, maybe seasonally or annually or whatnot?
What I feel is that, for example, your furnace, or I even look behind the refrigerator. I don't know who it was. He mentioned that the compressor seems to be the magnet of dust, and it accumulates a lot of dust in its grill. I think it runs hot because it is running continuously. It generates heat, and that adds a layer of dust on the vents behind the refrigerator. So if the vents are clogged, it leads to more heat. and eventually it can damage your compressor or reduce the life of your compressor, the refrigerator. That even goes for freezers, whether the freezer is a chest freezer or it's an upright freezer. Freezers also have a problem that they leak sometimes because the condensation on the compressor accumulates to ice, and that ice melts. Then it corrodes the body of your refrigerator or your freezer. So regularly cleaning under the refrigerator, pulling it out from its, usually it's boxed in the kitchen and at the back. Secondly, your furnace.
The furnace in the filter, replacing the filter.
Yeah, the filter, and then when you remove the filter, and again, it's all your comfort level. Open a panel. I think Brother Muhammad had mentioned it. You could vacuum the dust out of it. So general cleanliness and lubrication for any moving parts, that helps. Changing filters regularly help. Those are some of the areas I would look at.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. And if you're doing work in the house and there's a lot of cutting, or you're doing drywall, or then that will tend to generate dust, which means your filter is getting dirtier more quickly, right? So you might want to take care of, replace that more often if you're doing projects, because when it gets clogged, then it kind of prevents, or the airflow in the house.
Exactly. And even the vents which are the exit points for the heat and the air conditioning, often we vacuum and we have gatherings and friends all over. A lot tends to fall inside the vent, just around the vent. If you remove the cover, you will see a lot of hair inside, and basically we are breathing the same air. So, cleaning that area also helps.
We have another question from Brother Muhammad, or to Brother Muhammad. Okay, I'm trying to read it. It says, I have over 50 pot lights, which are kind of small. They were installed over 10 years ago at the time when pot lights were expensive. I want to replace all of them with bigger ones, but all of the pot light holes need to be made bigger now. It says, is there an economical solution? Places like Costco sometimes carry 4-inch pot lights. If I have an electrician do this work, can they get the lights cheaper from their sources?
Actually, the price at Costco is pretty cheap, and it's very hard to beat. For me as an electrician, the prices for the pot lights I will get is hard to beat with Costco prices, but they are different in terms of putting a pot light under beams and stuff. The pot light that I have is usually when you drill your hole for the pot light, you can measure it anywhere in the room and just put it. The one that's from Costco, you cannot install it anywhere where you have the beams running, because it have about 1.5 or 2 inches thickness behind the pot light lens. So if the pot lights that our brother was talking about in his house, the 50 pot lights he's talking about, they should have a box behind them, and they should have the space for Costco pot lights to be replaced with. So Costco pot lights, I would say they will be a good solution and a very good price, and they usually put them on sale for very cheap, which helps a lot if you get them at that time.
Yeah. So normally those pot lights cost $11.50 to $12. If it goes on sale, it even comes down to $8 and a few cents. So that's as Brother Muhammad mentioned. And brother, it's very easy to increase the size of the pot light hole. What you need is a blade. It's a circular blade that you fix to a drill machine. You just eyeball the center of the existing hole and punch your bigger hole into it. Before you punch a bigger hole, as Brother Muhammad mentioned, just put your hand in to see if you have an adjacent joist or a strapping that is possibly can obstruct your hole. So you could go, if it's allowance, then you just go a few inches left and right. you may say that the row of pot lights will vary, but once your light is installed and it is shining in your eyes, no eyes can tell that this is half an inch to the left or to the right. It doesn't matter.
I'll add one more thing on that. Amazon is your friend as well for pot lights. Sometimes you find really good deals on pot lights. That's where I got mine. Yes, I had something else I wanted to say, but I forgot right now. It's okay.
One thing about Amazon is Amazon is in a marketplace, so there are manufacturers from all over the world selling stuff. When it comes to electrical stuff, for example, even smart plugs or smart switches, smart things that can be switched on by an app, or a lot of people are installing these things. So ensure that the certification, a manufacturer in China can make anything for you and you can sell it very cheap for you. But if you install it in Canada and it sparks or it's not up to code and standards, Canadian standards, it can cause bigger problems to you. So see, the certifications are conforming to the Canadian code requirements.
Good point.
Which should say CSA
CSA.
certified.
Yeah.
That's right. It's either CSA, ETN. There's a lot of different certified companies in Canada. You can get the list online and check your device or whatever you're buying online before you buy it and pay the money, because when it comes in, you might not be able to return it if it's coming from China on eBay or Amazon. You're stuck with it and you can't even put it anywhere, because if something happened, you have, let's say, a damage or a fire or anything that happened because of this fixture, the insurance would not cover you because your fixture is not certified. But getting any fixture can be certified in certain places in Canada. You can get it to a store and get it certified by them and get it approved to be installed in Canada as well. So that's another thing you can do.
Yeah, and one more thing that I ran into, anything smart requires a neutral to be in the location where you're installing it. So Brother Muhammad can expand more on that. There are many ways to wire and run your wires. The source can be in so many different places. The neutral cannot be in one place. It can be in some other place. So I bought smart stuff, certified stuff, but when I went to install it, I couldn't, because there was no neutral behind the box where I wanted to put the smart stuff.
Okay, there was a question about recommended YouTube channels for beginners. Abdullah answered no specific ones. Muhammad or Brother Nazir, any specific ones you have in mind?
I usually, again, no specific. I'll watch multiple videos. There is a saying, there are many ways to skim a cat. So every YouTuber approaches a problem in his own unique way. There are commonalities. Many things can be done in many ways, and very commonly, like this question came to my mind, and I'll just share it briefly. Why there are so many different types of screws? There is Phillips, there is flat, there is Robertson. Why there are so many different types of heads? And there is a scientific reason for that. Robertson gives you a very good lock, the bit and the screw. And Robertson, if you use a power drill or a power screwdriver to drive it, it can overdrive, whereas a Phillips screw, the bit can slip and come out of the hole, preventing a damage to the location where you're installing. So everything has pros and cons. So watch a lot of YouTubes.
Is that why wood screws are usually the Robertson, but the drywall screws are Phillips?
Phillips, exactly. Yeah.
Not
if you use right. Yeah. And I would, based on this again experience, I moved into a new house just 2 months back, and the previous owner in this house, as Brother Abdullah mentioned, right, save every screw and save every screws are important. Like I also do the same thing. Like I'll keep the spares just for future. I can use it in a different place. But what I would, as a person who kind of look for very finished products, or something aesthetically looking beautiful, my biggest challenge was that when I was removing these screws, I had like a Phillips screwdriver, a power one in my hand, and I went and I realized, oh, this one is a Robertson. So I went and changed the bit, and I removed the Robertson one. Just 6 feet away, I went to the next screw to remove it. It was a Phillips, and then after that was just a flat minus. So if you have screws in one box for a single location, at least try to use the same screws. It's so that it's easy to uninstall them or fix them. Yeah, like my box back to my toolbox to change the bit was painful for me.
And the other thing related to this is nails. I always, if you look at the framing, the nails are used a lot. Like it's mainly done with nails. And I look at it and says, why do you even need to use nails? And then recently I did a project in the house which involved removing a load-bearing wall and installing a beam and post. And turns out, well, there are places where you should use nails and not screws, right? Depending on the force, because a screw would break easily, like it would break easily, but a nail would not break as easy. So it depends on the direction of the force, on the type of fastener. You would use different types of things. Good. Where did we land? I'm just trying to look at if we have more questions here that we can direct to people. Okay, we were on the YouTube channel, so we talked about that. Maybe Mohammed, we talked about tools, basic minimum set of tools. We talked about different types of saws, and then you can get into air tools.
Air tools. Having a compressor at your house is pretty handy. You can get a lot of different tools that can be attached to the compressor, from paint spray gun to like any type of drill that you can put on the compressor, any impact drill to change tires in your car, put air in your car, and plus the nailing guns, which comes pretty handy when you want to do any woodwork at your house. Any finishing work, if you want to do any molding or any baseboards, anything to do with wood or hardwood, yeah, that all comes handy with the compressor. And you buy it one time, and you can get a kit of a cheap kit of almost everything you might use, and that's buying multiple tools in one. Like a lot of tools that you have in your house, one thing.
Okay. So Abdullah, so you talked about interlocking the basement. You didn't talk about your shed.
Oh, gee. All right. Buy the Costco shed and invite a few friends over for pizza, and it's done. So, I mean, the shed, there are different ways of doing it. You can build it from scratch. You build a nice room and so on. Or you can actually buy the Costco one. The disadvantage of the Costco one is after a few years with the snow, a lot of snow and so on, you will start seeing it get out of shape. So it's also an expense, right? So the Costco one, you can get it for $1,000 if you want to build a proper room with a proper roof and properly insulated and so on. It can get more expensive, and it can get more. The skill level required will get a lot higher. But either way, you need to build a good foundation. So whether you choose to do a Costco one or a proper room, you need to build a really, really good foundation. Now, you can do that with gravel and compact it nicely. If you buy the Costco one, might be a little bit easier in terms of the base or the foundation. You just build a wood foundation and you put it on what they call those patio blocks, right? You put the 4x4 in it and you just build some flat surface using 2x4s and plywood, and you put your shed on top of it. So those are really your two options. The shed, in my opinion, is essential in the house. You know, this year, before the winter, literally, I close the door and I know there's nothing else that can fit in the shed, and I will open it in the spring and things will start falling out. You know, we put tires there, we put tools, we put bikes, you put gardening tools. It really is essential in the house if you don't have one. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna have to start putting things in the garage and in the basement, etc.
Okay, good advice there. Muhammad Siaj, I'm told you have plenty of ideas on storage and maximizing the usage of space and so on. You want to?
That's correct. Yes.
On the call, please feel free to post any more questions. We have about 10 or maybe 15 more minutes, inshallah. So if you have more questions, please go ahead and post them. Go ahead, Muhammad.
In terms of maximizing the storage, all of us have a lot of things, and we don't know where to go with it. Sometimes you run out of storage. You start putting, like Brother Abdullah said, in the basement here and there, in the garage. I found as soon as I moved to my house, I found in the closet that was made by the builder. It's usually the shelves are really low with the rods. In all the closets, I did the shelves. I raised the shelves up, and I added another rod, so I had the shelves up higher with the main rod that was installed in it, and then I added another rod at the bottom, which like almost doubled my space in the closet. None of us usually use that shelf too much at the top, but it's really good for hanging clothes. It's really good thing and helps a lot. And adding to that, on the corners of the closet, you can add shelving, like at, let's say, 16 inches. You can put some papers there, some books for the kids, and folded clothes. That helps a lot as well. In the garage, the very good idea from one of the brothers told me about, and he did it in my house, and it helped a lot. Above the hood of the car, usually, like if you park your car in the garage, right above the hood, there's a space that you can't use unless you built like a big shelf there from wall to wall, and let's say a 4 foot or 5 foot height. So when you park your car, pretty much your car is going under that shelf, and then you have a plenty of storage there. I have that in my house, and it's really helpful. I don't have like let you bring anything on the ground up on that shelf, and then above that you can do another mezzanine or whatever, like another big, like let's say 8 by the width of your garage, to add more storage. So I have all my tires, all my tools, everything that I need there. The bottom one is good for tools, that things that you might need all over the year in winter. The top one is for seasonal stuff. It's pretty good, pretty handy. Under stairways, usually builders, and because I do new construction as well, a lot of times we do new construction almost every day, and we see that builders block their the understairway, they block it with drywall. They just put the drywall there. You don't see anything inside. Personally, I had that space, that empty space, and it's I cut off the drywall. Make sure that the wall is not holding your stairs, or if it is, just make sure if you have to take some 2x4s out, just embrace in between, like embrace it more, and make sure it's not gonna affect the stairs. And you can make like cabinets there, and or drawers going out, which I did in my house, and it's really helpful as well. A lot of storage. There's a lot of space there that you can use.
Guys,
Another thing.
I'm gonna add one thing there.
Abdullah
That
did
storage,
his,
no,
had
it's
his-
really good. In Muhammad's house, it's really good because it's like going to the grocery store. All the candies are there. If you ever go to his house, you pull the drawer under the staircase. That's all where he stores his candy.
Hope my kids didn't hear that. And another thing is pull-out cabinets. I'm on that project right now. I'm making pull-out cabinets. My regular cabinets, I'm trying to make some pull-outs and some drawers in some of them. So you open the cabinet, you bring the drawer up. That helps a lot, and you can see everything at the back and organize it in a nice way. And you add more, like you have a lot of space there, but you can't use it because usually when you buy you have your kitchen, there's only 2 shelves or 3 shelves. If you put the drawers, that's going to help much more. You can add shelves. It's pretty easy. Anyone can do it. Go to Home Depot, take the shelf in your closet, in your cabinet. They can cut the exact same size. You just buy the pins and just attach them to your closet, and you have more shelves, because you're not, like, literally they put a lot of space between shelves, and that's really useless space. I did some storage benches indoors, like around the breakfast area, which take a lot of like heavy, let's say, drinks and stuff I can put there. It's heavy on cabinets sometimes, but you can put it in that storage benches, and you can buy some cushion that you can put on top and use it as a place to sit, and at the same time storage, which looks very nice as well. And storage benches are really handy outside. If you have a nice deck outside, and you have, especially when you have kids and there's toys all over the place and small stuff, you can put some all their toys in those storage benches. You can make it with hinges that you can open, put the stuff in. You can put your hoses that you're not using in that area, and just, you're not going to see anything in the back unless you want to use something. You take it out, use it, put it back. Between the studs, we usually have a lot of space between studs, like under drywall between the studs. And most of the places you have free space there. You can, if probably all of us saw those garbage cans that they're in the restaurants mostly. They have them inside the wall, which I got one and I put it in the wall. And that was like, you have your can out of the way, and in the wall, it's really not taking any space, and it's really good, and just fixed in one spot, easy to use as well. You can add cabinets. You can buy some cabinets, or get some cabinets from PG. Sometimes people put cabinets for free. You can get those and put them in above the laundry appliances. Kind of those stuff like that. That's kind of stuff I did, and I really find it was helpful.
Ideas, I guess. Alhamdulillah.
Sorry, Brother Muhammad, did you hear that?
No shortage of ideas to
Yes.
on that topic, inshallah. One topic that I wanted to actually to touch base on, which is something I personally have some experience with, which is related to radon mitigation. So radon is, you probably know, it's a sort of a radioactive gas, and it's
nuclear reaction.
Yeah. So it's natural that there are gases that come into the house because of differences in pressure between outside the house and inside the house. They come in through cracks and gaps in the foundation and whatnot. And of course, one of these things that could be radon. It's in certain areas, it's more likely to be a problem than others. But it's a good thing to explore, to look into, if you want to check that, just to be sort of on the safe side. There are different sort of levels, if you will. Canada has more of a higher, I would say, lower standard. So they say you can tolerate higher levels compared to the US, compared to the World Health Organization. So I think that's something that people can look into. And if that turns out to be something you need to do something, to take action about, there are really simple and easy ways to do radon mitigation in your house, and it could be a very simple DIY project. And personally, it's something I have experience with, so I'm happy to, if anyone wants help with that, inshallah. If you want to do the testing, all you have to do is, I think you can buy the kit from Home Hardware. You just put it in the house for a couple, follow the instructions, you put it in the house for a couple of days, probably in the basement or in the sort of the lowest living space, which becomes important if you have bedrooms in, for children or youth in your basement. I think it becomes more important that you take a look at it with that. And then you send the package by mail to a lab which will do the sort of the analysis and send you the results. So I would recommend, especially I would say if you're in Kanata, as it's something that to look into, and as I said, it could be a simple DIY project to tackle, inshallah. We're coming up to almost the end of this session, and people are already looking for more sessions. So maybe we have more work to do. Brother Nazir, any final thoughts or ideas or things you'd like to share with the group?
I mean, I would encourage everybody to, whatever tools you have, whatever things you have in mind, give it a try. As Brother Abdullah mentioned, the satisfaction of doing things by your own hand is very rewarding. In this huge consumer world where we are just consuming stuff, if you create something or if you do something by yourself, it's a great experience. And do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to try something and fail. Everything is fixable. If you do something, if you break something, it can be fixed. Get the know-how before. You can ask me a question, or Brother Abdullah. Without asking their permission, I'm even volunteering them. Take this opportunity. Brother Shahbaz had a good idea of creating a WhatsApp group. We are in many WhatsApp groups, and our paths cross, either in Ask Canada United Muslims or in the Canada Neighbors group. You could ask, and somebody could give you an idea and tip how to do things. So definitely, I would encourage everybody to try something outside. Try something that you've not done before, and that should get you comfortable. Start small, then you could go bigger.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. And Jazakallah khair, Brother Nazir, and Brother Abdullah, and Brother Muhammad, and everyone who joined and participated. I hope this, inshallah, was a useful and fruitful session for you, and will, encourage you to take on some maybe small projects initially if you're not doing that already, and then go for bigger things, inshallah. And there's plenty of help around to get you going, inshallah. So Jazakumullah khair. I think we reached the end of the time, right on, alhamdulillah, 10 p.m. So we're going to end it here, and hope everyone will stay safe, inshallah, and keep doing things around your house. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you.